word word study this morning is an interesting word. It's actually the word called an auroch. So an auroch is a large wild ox, excuse me. So it's a large wild ox that actually really spread across Europe, Asia, and North Africa. It's similar in concept to the American buffalo. So the aurochs were large, non-domesticated cattle. The last record of the Aurochs was in Poland in around AD 1627. Although they want to say that they're extinct now, but the reality is they could very well be out in the wild and we're just not aware of them. The King James Version of the Bible, though, and this is why I picked this word, the King James Version of the Bible uses the word unicorn, which is actually based on textual tradition and etymological transmission, which basically is a really fancy way of saying is they just copied the people who came before them. That's pretty much what it's saying. It's not based on the actual lexical accuracy of the word. And the word, which of course here would be in the Hebrew. This tradition is rooted in the Latin Vulgate. That's where your concept of unicorn comes from. It's not from the original Hebrew. So the King James Version translation is based upon a mythical one-horned creature, likely due to the influence of Hellenistic lore. So, really it has to do with really primarily with fantasy, and that's not what Scripture actually is about, and nor about what this word is. The Septuagint, which is the Greek translation of the Hebrew Bible, uses a word that indicates a one-horned animal. Aurochs are mentioned in 9 verses of the Hebrew Scripture. They are renowned for their strength with majestic horns and for their ability to break ropes, making it very difficult to bind them. And like I said, kind of like the American buffalo, only a little bit more intense, because what I've heard when it comes to buffaloes is fences are a suggestion, and that's about it, which is why they're not really domesticated. And it's the same thing with these types of animals. In Numbers 23:22, the aurochs are used in comparison to the strength with which God brought Israel out of Egypt. So you can see that they are considered to be very strong animals. This statement was made by Balaam to Balak. Balak desired for Balaam to curse the children of Israel, but Balaam, a prophet of God, knew he could not. Although Balak called Balaam to curse Israel, he could only bless the nation. In his blessing, again, he speaks of the strength of the aurochs concerning how the Lord brought Israel out of the land of Egypt. You can see that in Numbers chapter 24 and verse 8. When Moses blessed the children of Israel before his death, he used the majesty of the horns of the aurochs to describe the tribe of Benjamin. Benjamin's glory is like the firstborn bull, and his appearance like the horns of the auroch, majestic in appearance. You see that over in Deuteronomy chapter 33 and verse 16. In Isaiah 34:6, the aurochs are used to describe the men of war that come against the Lord when he returns to claim his inheritance. The Lord has given all the armies of the nations over to slaughter because of the day of his wrath has come. In Psalms chapter 22 and verse 21, we see the aurochs are used to describe the men who surround the Messiah seeking to crucify him. In praise to God, David writes in Psalms 29 that the voice of the Lord breaks the cedars of Lebanon, makes the people skip like a calf and like the young aurochs. In Psalms 92:10, the horns of the aurochs are employed to describe how the Lord exalts his people. When God responds to Job, he asks whether the aurochs will serve him or whether he will be able to bind the aurochs with furrows and ropes to plow the valleys. Because again, these types of animals were known to snap anything you bound them with. They would break that. The aurochs are not a mythical creature of lore. Although the King James uses the word unicorn to translate the Hebrew word, in this case, it would be ra'em, is actually the Hebrew word. It is not intended actually to imply the fictional creature we have come to know as unicorns. Okay, that was not the intent of the King James either. It wasn't to make it something that was of fantasy, although the word unicorn has kind of become known with that. So it's not really an appropriate word to be using. The term unicorn refers to a one-horned beast. Do we have one-horned beasts today? Well, yeah, rhinoceros is a good example of that. Some of them, so we know what a one-horned beast looks like. And that's what it was actually, that's actually the word that was used in the Septuagint. Thus, the unicorn in the King James Version is based on textual tradition rather than lexical accuracy and should be taken as such. It describes a wild ox, a large animal whose strength is renowned because it cannot be bound with ropes nor subdued to plow. Now, the significance of this particular word we see in Psalms chapter 22 and verse 21. When the men who are surrounding the Messiah are described like the Aurochs, they are mighty men, strong as an ox. They are the type of men, these are the type of men they used against Jesus, a man who had done no wrong, nor caused any revolt. He only spoke the truth, yet the men that surrounded him were the strongest of the strong to ensure that he didn't get away. This is the men that they put around him. In his distress, though, the Messiah's cry to the Lord to save him did not go unanswered. He loosed him from the pains of death, for it was not possible that death could actually hold him. Acts chapter 2 and verse 24, even though man used the strongest of men to try to hold him.